Hello, brothers and sisters. Welcome to He Sees Us All YouTube channel. I've been making intros for each of the streams just to allow people to join in. I have two separate videos put together for you guys today. I can't put everything together in one video for whatever reason. Whenever they're long, I have trouble with that. But I have some videos about that Coolio things he was saying recently, things I didn't even know about. I added the video that we watched last time too. If you guys don't want to watch it, just let me know in the chat. But I found other videos that were pretty interesting that I think you guys are going to be interested in seeing. And hold on just a second. Just want to get that ready for you guys. Okay, so I have other videos as well that I'm going to show you guys. I have some of DMX. One I think was from MTV. I remember seeing it a long time ago. And then towards the end of the stream, I have videos about Stanley Meyer, who was the guy who invented water-powered cars. And he went out to eat at Denny's, and while he was eating at Denny's, he started to like choke and grab at his throat. He went running out of the Denny's. His brother was there with him. His brother ran out behind him. They were eating with other people. And he collapsed to the ground. He looked at his brother and he said, "They poisoned me." Now, this was, I believe, the day after he had signed contracts with the Pentagon. So that's interesting. There was another guy apparently who more recently reinvented the car that runs on water, and he was a cop out of Buffalo, New York, I believe, and he was shot after he started going for his patent, and he built the vehicle and recorded himself, starting up the vehicle and how it worked, where the water tank was, and so on and so on. And then he was shot and he died on job. Then there was another man who invented a car that ran on magnets. It was an electric vehicle, but not one you would charge. The magnets would keep the car charging. Both of these vehicles that were invented required no maintenance whatsoever outside of tires. I'm guessing you would still have to have maintenance with your tires. But interestingly enough, all of these men we're going to talk about tonight, I realized as I was putting together this video, died of heart attacks. DMX OD'd on cocaine, but he had a heart attack in the end. I believe he was on life support for a little bit, but he had a heart attack, was on life support, and then passed away. Coolio just passed away recently. We just talked about him like 2 videos ago, and he was actually coming out and saying quite a bit. And I didn't realize like how much he was coming out and saying until I started putting together tonight's video. So we're going to start this off real quick. In the beginning, I just have where I searched Coolio's name. I don't know why, I just searched it. And interestingly, I saw this article. Here, I'm going to start this. So I searched Coolio's name, right? And, this was like shortly after he passed away. People let me know in the comment section that he had passed away. So notice all of the articles label him as the Gangster's Paradise rapper, right? So Coolio wasn't like that big of a rapper. And that's why I added the video that we discussed last time. So then I saw this article from Billboard, right? So Coolio's Gangsta Paradise video joins YouTube 1 billion views club. Now, this was posted on July 13th. So this was before he passed away, right? But just recently, his songs started his one song, his one hit wonder, really. He was in other songs that were big, but none that were like his song, right? So it wasn't quite most of his life, but 27 years. So this was recently, like I said, the article itself was posted in July, 27 years after its initial release and 5 after it was uploaded to YouTube. So that's probably where it took off like crazy, is on YouTube. Coolio's iconic 1995 Gangsta's Paradise has joined the 1 billion views club. The news hit this week that the title track from the spike-haired rapper's 1995 sophomore album, which also famously appeared in the 1995 Michelle Pfeiffer education drama Dangerous Minds, had crossed the Billy mark. So
Dane,
that means, Coolio. Pause this for a second. That means, with that being said, that article was posted July 13th, right, of this year. With that being said, that means more people would be paying attention to what Coolio has to say, right? So I found this video, and this was posted by the guy who this video was sent to, right? I'm going to pull this one up. So I found this video, and they sent this video to this guy. And what they're talking about is there's how do I put this? Because I hate calling things conspiracy, but that's really the best way to put it. There's a conspiracy theory going around that the African Americans living in America are not from Africa. They weren't slaves. They didn't come over here on slave ships, that they're Native Americans. And that the whole idea of them being slaves is to, kind of, it's a way to kind of put them in a box, right? It's a way of control because that makes them so they're not native to the land, right? So it gives them less control in life, and it demeans them, and right, in a way. So there's this going around that they're Native Americans. This very well may be fact. A lot of people point out, like, where are all the slave ships? Why aren't there any slave ships? Somewhere in some museum somewhere, there isn't like any evidence of them. Now, the thing that I don't like about this video is that Coolio says, that this was like the white man's plan, right? That's I love that people are waking up and opening their eyes and realizing different things that, that we've been lied to. We keep continuously being lied to. History is not what they tell us. And we know that. We've been shown that time and time again. And in the future, what's happening today will not be told how it's actually happening. It will be manipulated to fit the narrative of the future of what's going on. So when he says that this was the white man's doing, yes, it may have been white men that did it, but it's not the white man's doing, okay? It's the 1%'s doing. It's the elite's doing. That is still, to say that, I'm sorry, I don't know if that made noise when I hit that. To say that is still being in that mindset that they want you in. They want people to be pitted against each other. So it was the Masonic doing, okay? It was the doing of the Agenda 21, the whole agenda of the Masons that's been going on for over 100 years now. And to think that it's, all of the white man's doing is crazy. No, it's the 1%ers, and we're not included in that either. But it's interesting to know that he was coming out and saying all this right before he died. And the documentary that this guy talks about never came to fruition, obviously.
Yo, Dane, I tried to reach out to you several times. I support you, bro. I think you one of the most important black men in America, bro. I think you need to be protected, guarded. You're a treasure.
You said, you know what? You're not an African. You're a Native American. Yeah. He said this, and I asked him. I said, "Do you know Dane Calloway?" And he said, "Yes."
Of course I do.
Of course he does.
I knew this already. I knew from my grandparents. My grandparents were full blood Native on my father's side, and then my mother's grandfather, which is my great grandfather. My mother's grandfather is full blood Chata.
Yeah.
Not Chata. I know the right pronunciation, and I've been trying to tell niggas all the time what they are, that they need you. You know what I'm saying? We the melanated Neezy from Turtle Island. I know where I'm from.
Turtle Island.
I know where I'm from, brother. I'm trying to spread the word. Motherfuckers listen, but they don't give a fuck. And that's the shit that the white man, that's that eugenics shit. They didn't steal that shit in our people so bad that they don't want to think different. You know what I mean? I support you though, bro.
We support you.
I support you, bro. And whatever you need, I got soldiers out here too, ready to ride. They ready to put their money together too. I got niggas that's ready to go buy 1,000 acres.
That part.
And
start a fucking city.
Exactly.
That's what I always been talking about.
I'll see you beautiful people.
So you heard that, right? Now, he was talking about how they're Native Americans, right? And that most people here are Native Americans. Now, interestingly, at the end of that, they said that he's got soldiers, right? He's got people that are willing to come together and they're going to buy thousands of acres. And then she says, start a city. That is dangerous to the government. It has been, always has been. Look at what happened at the Alamo. Or not the Alamo. Oh, God, jeez. Not the It happened in Texas. I can't remember what it was right now, but they had the whole, they had their own little city. They had everything they did, they planted their own food, but they were well armed as well. And the government went in there and, they shot them all. And the government supposedly fired first. They fired back, and it was that was it. All hell broke loose. I'm sure someone knows what I'm talking about, but for him to say that like they're planning on buying thousands of acres, that's a dangerous statement. That may have been the statement that did it. But I mean, he's been saying stuff recently, and for his music video to just recently be gaining all that traction, getting all that views, that makes him dangerous. That means more people are paying attention to him. They had to silence him.
Of course, this is some unfortunate news.
Waco.
Very unfortunate news. Man, thank you, Brother Coolio. Thank you. Wado, brother. I really appreciate that. And yes, just in case you guys are wondering, I did get a chance to speak with him on multiple occasions. We were making a lot of plans, getting ready to do some big things for the people. And that was that's just so unfortunate that happened. And it, 59, young. He was young. Now, I'm not trying to, go the conspiracy theory route or nothing like that, but I was a little weird. Now, I did have a family member just drop, like that, out the blue, random. And so I know it can happen. I'm not going to rule that out. That probably.
So what he's saying is that to him it was very weird because he knew what Coolio had been saying. He knew that he had been coming out and speaking recently, and then he just drops that of a heart attack. It seems to always be a heart attack. Like I said, something all these men we're going to talk about tonight had in common. Well, two things actually. They all believed in God, the God we talk about. They all didn't fall in line, right? And they all also died of a heart attack. So it's not really conspiracy when you can see it happening over and over again. DMX was a dangerous man. He had always been speaking out. Now, if things are ramping up right now, so to say, right? Like things are getting more intense, something big is going to happen. We all know it. Then they need to silence those that fall on a lot of ears, right? So
probably could have happened, but I'm, most likely did. But the last time the reports came out, it was TMZ said it's at 6:47. Let me see. Yeah, 6:47 p.m. Pacific time. They were stating that the police were doing an investigation on everything, and nothing is official until the coroner they do the autopsy and state the official cause of death. A lot of people were stating that it was a heart attack. And man, I'm upset. I'm gonna be real. I'm upset. So many different things that we were going to talk about, exposing the industry, exposing a lot of the stuff that's happening in this nation, dealing with the government, et cetera, et cetera. And I remember he was telling me he was worried about.
There was so much they were gonna talk about. They were gonna talk about exposing the industry, exposing the government, exposing a lot of things, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and then he drops dead. Yeah, no kidding, it seems a little suspicious. Like, for him to be like, "Oh, well, that happened to an uncle of mine, so I know it can happen. Maybe it did not." Nah, man, go with your gut.
Talking about certain things because he didn't know what they would do to his family. He wasn't worried about what they would do to him. He was worried about his children. And I was telling him, nah, don't even think like that. You know, just let's do this for the people. And in fact, we could do it educationally. So it could almost seem as if it will be flying up under the radar, but you know, we don't gotta go straight direct with it. Like, but I'm not saying we're gonna be beating around the bush neither. But when I talked to him, we were going to be pulling up on each other at a different time, but as he was moving to the Carolinas, I was moving out, and he thought I was still there. And he was like, "Hey man, I'm down here," and I was like, "I just moved to a different state," and so we missed each other then. And then he ended up going on tour, and when we already said once he got on tour that we were going to link up and make things official and do things right, and whether if it be movies, film, some type of documentary, we just had the ideas, and I wrote some things down, he wrote some things down, and made some points, and definitely he wanted to share his platform with me to state to all of his people that we are the American Indians. Now, in the video that I played, and shout out to Love Jones on YouTube. Shout out to Love Jones. That was the female that was reaching out. Let me know, hey, what Coolio name, this is what he's saying. And Coolio was like, even though he already knew this, he appreciated the fact that I was doing that. And, he was like, he said what he said. We need to protect this brother. And I appreciated that, man. But when we had that conversation, it was real. It was real, like very similar to when I had the conversation with Cube, and Ice Cube. And Cube was like, I thought Cube was going to be all uptight and everything because of, what where he is as far as his celebrity. But nah, Cube real down to earth, and he kept it real. Like we was speaking on the phone for a minute. Same thing with me, Coolio. We see these are the type of people that just be wanting to get the stuff out, y'all.
So, you hear that, right? Ice Cube has been talking too, but I don't know how publicly, really, but he's been talking to this guy. So, it almost sounds like his documentary plan involved him, Coolio, and Ice Cube, and they were going to expose a lot of things. Now, if Ice if Ice Cube sees what just happened to Coolio, I highly doubt he would go forward with anything that he was planning on saying anyway. Um, and this man states that Coolio was worried for his family. He was worried they would go after his family. A lot like Kobe Bryant, right? Like he died in the helicopter. They showed that in a cartoon. I mentioned before that I feel like that cartoon being made may have been shown to him in the past when it was made as a threat. Like, oh, you want to threaten us? This is how you'll go. Now, his daughter happened to be at that basketball game. So when that helicopter crashed, it wasn't just him that died, it was his daughter also. I think that's what really instilled the fear in Coolio that they might not just go after him solely. And that's what really bothered him. He said, and that's why I added that other video, because he says that he's not afraid of death and he knows they know that, but he is afraid for his family. They came after him. And like I said before in the other video, I almost wonder if that was like a little reverse psychology. Like, I'm not scared of death, so killing me, I'm not afraid of that. Which wouldn't work, like I said in that video, and it didn't, obviously. You can't play that reverse psychology.
They be
game
holding
around.
so much in. They be holding a lot of stuff in, dealing with what they going through, what's happening in the industry, what they seen, what they heard, what they can verify, what they can verify for sure. But I remember one time, Coolio was.
Now that's a real threat too, because he's saying that what they were going to talk about and what they were going to show in this documentary that was being cooked up for the masses, they could verify. If there's proof and verification, the only way to stop that is to take that person out. And that's what was done. Like I said, all these men tonight died of a heart attack.
Was telling me about how a couple of, I'm not going to say no names, but some big top hats of the industry were coming at him. Males, by the way, were coming at him asking for sex. You know, they were coming at him talking about some child trafficking stuff, and you know, we were going to expose
Child trafficking. So he's saying what we've heard many rappers say over the years, that, you know, they were approached for gay stuff and they said, like, we're not, you know, we're not down for that. And a lot of times those rappers did not go forward. I truly believe that Coolio was not that big, huge sensation that he could have been, was because he was one of those people that was like, nah, I'm not down for that. I don't think they just straight up approach people like, hey, you want to be a part of this weird sex cult thing that we have going, where we sacrifice little children and animals and do like crazy things. I don't think that they just approach people like that. I think they kind of do little things here and there and see how willing someone is before they pull them, you know, all the way in. So, but what Coolio and Ice Cube had was proof of these things. He just said that not only did they have proof of like being approached or, you know, just things like that, but child trafficking. So, you know, that's a big deal. That's a big, we're going to silence you type of thing, right?
it all. You know, that's what made me, you know, was like, oh, what, he passed. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's why I was like, hold up, whoa, because I remember we had a conversation. He was telling me that he was going to do some interviews and he was going to talk about some of this stuff, and I was telling him, I said, just scratch the surface. You don't got to get in full detail with everything. And you know, he was like, I know, I'm, you know, I was like, yeah, because even though, you know, you want to get this stuff out right now, and that's what he was telling me, you know, he was like, it's mainly about, he want to be there for his children. And you know, it's just a lot of stuff that was happening behind the scenes that you guys didn't know about.
So to say he wants to be there for his children means that, yes, the man absolutely was afraid of death.
And it was just unfortunate that the brother's no longer here with us in the physical, but he is with us here in the spiritual. I be loving when you know, the so-called celebrities step up and they want to get the truth out. I be loving that. Man, that's all I be wanting from them, man. You know, and I appreciate the fact that most of them have acknowledged me. Basically, bigging up my works, bigging up my videos and stuff like that. And I was working on something else, and I was like, man, let me get on here and just get on here and just vent, because, you know, even my wife was surprised. We both found out at the same time. She was like, huh? I was like, yeah. She's like, you need to look into this. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna keep my eye on that, you know, because that was out the blue. But even though that can happen, but it was just the way it was said, you know, he wasn't with his manager at the time when he was at his friend's house, which wasn't his manager's house. They never disclosed who the friend's name was. Now, once again, I'm not trying to say that anything wrong happened, but we know that people can do things to make things happen. Like, you know, reading between.
So that's an interesting piece of information. He was at a friend's house. Now, he was close with Coolio at this point, right? He was at a friend's house, but they won't disclose the name of the friend whose house he was at. And everything about this feels off to this man. Yeah, it is off. The moment his song gets huge, people are paying attention again to him, you know. Then all of a sudden he drops dead when he's got something to say and a documentary is being planned. Keep in mind, everything we say is heard no matter what. There's microphones on every device that we have. Everything in our home is recording us. Like, that's not a paranoia thing. There are microphones on our cell phones, on our computers, on our tablets, on TVs, on most remotes, on cable boxes. We're surrounded by microphones. They don't have to wiretap anybody's house anymore. That's not necessary. All they have to do is listen in. And yes, they're capable of doing that. If they had plans in motion and they were really going to do these things, taking out the problem is the solution. Now, will Ice Cube come forward now? Highly doubt it. Highly doubt it.
Between the lines, they can even, put something in something to make a person have a heart attack or make a person die straight up in multiple different ways. So, I'm gonna look into it, just like how I did a lot of people's death, and some of that stuff YouTube don't like, but if you guys hit the link below, join the 13% server. I'll be sharing some exclusive stuff on there with you guys that I can't post up on here. But Coolio did a great in the hip hop industry, and I like how he still managed to tell the truth, towards his following, his core following, and with him speaking up even more, even though he was a little bit afraid because of what they did to him and his family members, like his son. I remember one time he was telling me, he was, talking and speaking about the industry, how they, how certain things were going. I'm not going to get all in depth with it, but he was like, randomly things were happening to his family members, and all of a sudden he got locked up, then his son got locked up, and he was like, his son ain't never did nothing. You know what I'm saying? That was his first charge, and they locked him up. I was like, And he was like, all they was trying to do was keep him quiet. I was like, damn, man, see, I can relate. And they was trying to do certain things to me, trying to keep me quiet. And he was like, that's why I'm calling you now. We talking, He was trying to forewarn me about certain things and giving me advice on certain things, and be looking out for this, be careful with that. Anytime you come out LA, call me. We're going to have these people with you. It was like that. That was like a big brother to me, man. You will be missed, Coolio. If you all have any stories about Coolio, go ahead and leave good stories. Leave them in the comments. Rest well, brother. We will meet again. Waddle, everyone.
You've been in the industry.
So this is the video we already watched. We're gonna just rewatch it. It's not really that long. It's like a 10-minute video. I wanted to rewatch it because he does talk about his son and how he went to prison, and then Coolio ended up going to prison as well. But in this video, he just talks about his son. Same thing with DMX. They will take these people who are famous and who people will listen to, and if they start speaking out of line, they will put them through the ringer first before they come and do them in. Now, because I think we're getting closer to some kind of end goal for them, I don't think they're just going to start putting people through the ringer, especially someone who's really already kind of in the back of the audience, as far as things go with Coolio, because he's, he hasn't made an album in forever. He doesn't make new music. He's retired, shall we say. But his song gained traction recently. That 1 billion view club was recent. People have been, and it wasn't that long ago that it was uploaded to YouTube. So people will start listening to him again. If they're getting closer and closer to an end goal, they're gonna just do away with people that have ears on them. People have come out and spoken about the industry over and over again. Look at Dave Chappelle, what happened to him. Most people think he's cloned now. I mean, he doesn't look the same at all. He took this random trip out to Africa. When he came back, he didn't look the same. He started doing all the things that went before he left, he said he wouldn't do. Totally different person now, right? But before he left, he was speaking out about the industry. They will take these guys. They go, DMX went to prison, Coolio went to prison, Cat Williams went to prison. Now he's poor and living in the streets. Last time I checked. This happens to a lot of celebrities that speak out, whether it be about things that happened to them as a child while they were in Hollywood, or whether it be about bigger things, which Coolio and Ice Cube and this man Dane were planning on making a documentary about. DMX has spoken out about bigger things. DMX died recently too. That's why I feel like they may be approaching some kind of end game now, right?
A long time, How was it in the music industry? That whole conversation about the gatekeepers real, you know, the rituals, things people got to do, blood sacrifice thing. You know, I don't know if you got into all that, but can you kind of go there, being as though you were in the belly of the beast in the music industry?
I've read about all of that, and
Now, I don't believe him here, and he kind of deflects from that question about blood sacrifice and stuff. And if you notice, here, let me put that back on screen. Look how he grabs his mouth, right? And he's like, he was about to say something, and he stopped himself. He was going to say something. He was going to drop truth right there, and he decided that that probably was crossing the line, and he stopped himself. The way he looks right now, he just did. And he grabbed his mouth, and he doesn't really answer that question. He says he's seen some weird stuff. He says nobody's ever approached him and been like, "Hey, you want to join us?" But like I said, I think they kind of test these people with little things here and there.
I only can say my truth, and you would think that with the
I can only say my truth, meaning like he's never participated in any of these. He was going to say something.
height of success that I had and the things I was able to do, the amount of records I sold, and actually the amount of I don't want to say political power, but the amount of social power that I was able to achieve. You would think that I would be a prime candidate for just to be, so we could say, we could call it something, for to be a member of the Illuminati or a member of the elite society or whatever. You would think that I would be, that they would come at me, and I think they did it sideways though. Nobody never got at me directly and said, "We want you to join us and we're doing this." That's never happened. But I will tell you, I've had motherfuckers come at me on some weirdo shit, like on some gay shit.
See, that's what I'm talking about. I think he knows that like they were coming at him with little things here and there, like they were testing him in ways, and that's why he said it that way. Like I think they did, but they were coming at me sideways because they do certain little things before it's like, okay, we're gonna pull you all the way in now.
I've had motherfuckers come at me on some, "Oh, you should do this" type shit. And I was like, what? Man, why the fuck would I do that? That make no sense. I view that as being inhuman. I view that as I would never do that. So, and then right when there was some things that I was trying to do that I felt were important, things that I felt would help other people, shit started happening to me. Went to jail for some bullshit. Got convicted. Well, not necessarily convicted, but because I didn't do no real time, but little shit started happening, you know? And I didn't even address the shit really, because who the fuck, when you know, and when you're a celebrity, bro, when something happens, whether it's true or it's not true, once it's been said, for most people it's true, because people don't do research to find out if something is true about a person or not. Whatever they hear, they deem it to be truth. So I didn't go.
Like I said, if you notice, he kind of goes off on like these side rants and doesn't directly answer what they're saying because he wants to say things, but he's afraid to. It's so obvious. Watching this now is so much different than the first time I watched it with you guys, because that's when we watched it, it was like 2 weeks before he passed away. Now he's passed away. So now we're watching this in like, you know, in retrospect. We're looking back on it now, and it's a lot different hearing him and seeing him shut himself up. It's just there's so much more that you're observing now that he's passed away from a heart attack, like every other person that we're talking about tonight.
Hard on, oh, I didn't do that. I didn't do this. I didn't do that. It never happened. I just let the shit die down, continued on my life. Also, I'm at a point right now in my life where there's a lot of shit I know that I want to tell people. It's a lot of things that I want to teach, but I'm afraid. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm scared because I got
Okay.
4 grand.
So never mind what I was saying. I mean, obviously it was right. Again, we're watching this looking back on it, and you can actually see him stopping himself from saying things. And he just said it. He's like, there's so much I want to tell people, but I'm afraid. And now, like, I don't remember word for word what he said, but I do remember him saying that he's not afraid to die and he's scared for his family. And I believe that's what he's about to say now. But I really wish he went forward. He must have known somewhere inside him, if he said the things he knew, that they were going to come for him. So he should have just, instead of like, dipping his big toe in the water over and over again and just testing the waters, he should have just dove right in and did it, because then at least he would have said what he had to say, and he would have went out getting out what he want. Like, now he was taken before he could have said all the things that he truly wanted to say. And that's really sad. And I'm going to be honest, I don't think Ice Cube's going to say anything. I don't think there's going to be any documentary. Them taking Coolio out is probably enough for Ice Cube to be like, okay, I'm going to be quiet. I like my little bit of money I have. It's nice and cushy, and I don't want them coming for me. That's how that's going to go.
Grandchildren. And I got children that are in this world. I got people I care about. And I got people that I care about that don't necessarily believe what I believe.
Yeah.
And I'm not, I have no fear of death. And I think that those that would oppose my beliefs, they've probably done enough. If somebody's after me, or if somebody's watching me, then they know enough about me to know that I have no fear of death. So killing me don't mean shit. It just confirms that what I said was true. But
you heard that? So he says, killing me don't mean shit. It just confirms that what I said was true. So, but the thing is, not this is going to fall on deaf ears. Not a lot of people are going to listen. Like the other video we watched, he says he's talked to people and told them, listen, you're Native American. You're not what they tell you. Your ancestors weren't slaves. They're doing that to kind of put your mind in a prison. Get out of that prison. Get out of that box they're keeping you in. He said he told people that, and those people would be reluctant to what he had to say. They didn't want to hear it. They would kind of just brush it off. That is the way the masses are. When things like this are said and things like this are done, it falls on deaf ears. Everything I am saying tonight, for the most part, is going to fall on deaf ears. It's not like a lot, like, people are going to see it, but it's not going to be seen by, millions and millions and millions of people. The whole idea of Coolio being taken out isn't going to be heard by millions. And even if it was, most of those people would not believe that. Most of those people are, they swim with the stream. They never swim against it. They're always swimming with the stream. And that's the way they have to be. To swim against the stream would make them lose their minds. Some people are like that. Some people are so set in their ways and their way of thinking, and thinking that everything in life is just it's perfect the way it is. There's no way the media would lie to you. There's no way presidents would lie to you. There's no way that the government would be something that you should be afraid of. Like the government, some people are so set in that mindset that it scares them to think any other way. And most people, unfortunately, are that way.
I do have.
And he was scared. He was scared if he died. He was scared for his family. So him saying he's afraid of death is just a big fat lie.
A fear of them hurting my family. So I'm quiet about certain things. I don't talk about everything I know because I don't want nobody in my family to be hurt. You know what I'm saying? I don't want nothing to happen to my people. And if I owe them anything, I owe that to them. I owe them the.
I notice in chat we're talking about Coolio's hat, a Masonic hat, and satanic hat or whatever. And what else did I read? about how he makes devil horns with his hair and stuff. Absolutely, he does those things. People have to keep in mind that these celebrities, from the moment they got famous, started being dressed by other people. Their style was made for them. Okay. So even if he doesn't have someone dressing him now, he was given a certain style to be Coolio, right? And that goes for every celebrity when they're not in movies or they're not in, in music videos or whatever. They have a certain style about them and they tend to keep that style going. I've mentioned in many videos how a lot of people are worshiping Satan and they don't even know it. That can be said really, like, seriously, for all celebrities. The ones who are even trying to break out of the system that Hollywood and that the industry has put them in, they're still worshiping Satan and they don't even know it because they've been told to walk, talk, act, and dress a certain way, and they still do those things even when they're not actively doing shows and stuff, right? So just because he's wearing the hat and just because he puts his hair that way sometimes does not mean he wasn't trying to do the right thing right up until his death, and that it's what contributed to him dying, right?
You know, to owe them their lives, to be able to live their life and not be subjected to any type of harm because of something I did or said. It's already happened once. You know, my oldest son did some time in prison, and he shouldn't have. It was his first offense, and I was going to court, and I seen people having cases that were way worse than his, and not even being their first offense, and them getting off. And they didn't have a better lawyer than he had. Some of them had fucking PDs, but they got off because
they were punishing Coolio and his son. He's saying people who had records and his son did not have a record were using public defenders. They didn't even have real lawyers. Now, you know damn well Coolio's son had a good lawyer. He didn't have a record. He did prison time. He actually went to prison. And then Coolio's sitting in the courtroom watching people who had records and who were repeat offenders with public defenders, state-provided lawyers, right? And they were getting off with probation time or whatever. And that's because Coolio and his son were being punished. In that video we were watching before, Dane mentioned that Coolio had said his son was speaking out as well. So, like I said, they'll try to destroy you first. And if you don't take those threats seriously, then they just take you out.
whether they got off or not, it didn't matter to the world now. But by them doing what they did to my son, it made me kind of shut the fuck up. I stopped talking about what I was talking about at that time because I felt like I was being, and listen, I could be making this shit up in my head. It could be something. I realized that I will never know whether it's true or not. But just to make sure that it didn't happen again, I backed off. And now let me say, when I backed off, shit stopped happening. So I'm more inclined to believe that maybe I was right. Like I said, I can't say if it's true or not, but like I said, those things stopped happening to me. That kind of shit stopped happening to me. I stopped getting them weird messages. I stopped getting them weird emails. I stopped having that feeling of being watched. You know what I mean? So it is what it is. But at the same time, I often wonder why if people get on the internet and they say shit just for attention, or they make up shit so that people will want to listen to what they have to say. And I bet you in at least 70, 85%, 70 to 80% of the times, they're doing it to get some fucking attention.
Okay.
And then 10% of the time, people are telling the truth. I've seen some crazy shit. Bro. I seen some shit like, wow. I seen some shit that made me go, what the fuck? Is this really happening right now?
Is it fair to say, Coolio, that your celebrity is the reason why your voice is in danger? Like, is you speaking
Say it
out?
one more time.
You being the celebrity that you are, and you being having the platform that you do, and your word obviously getting to masses and speaking somewhat to power. Is that the threat that comes to you, and it's the threat that is to them? Like, is your celebrity the reason why you feel as though you can't speak, and your family's life could potentially be in danger? Is that the reason? So in itself, is it a gift and a curse?
Yeah. At one point in my career, people was fucking really listening to me, and they were really taking to heart what I had to say. People believed in me. And when I started doing music, I did music. I made music because I wanted to be heard as a man. I felt like that what I had to say could help people, and it might be important. I had information, or I pay attention, and I might be able to help people. When I went platinum on my first album, when I went platinum, that meant that I went double platinum actually. That meant that I sold 2 million records. Now, maybe, who knows? Maybe one person bought 100 copies. But who knows? But for all intents and purposes, then that means that 1 million people at least heard my voice and heard my point of view from a musical standpoint. I've always been of the belief that,
Again, he didn't answer the question. Every time they asked him a question, he didn't actually answer it, if you notice. But what he is saying is important, because he's saying that at least 1 million people heard his voice, or what he knows that the more people that listen to him, the more dangerous he is. And they know he knows that. That would be why, hence, they went forward and took him out. Now, I don't know of Ice Cube to be someone that speaks out time and time again. So I don't think he's going to come forward saying anything after this.
if you have the opportunity to
But he
reach
hasn't answered them
that
once.
many people, then you have the obligation to give them something that they need. Now, with music, you give people what they need, because people hate. Most people don't like what they need. People like what they want. So I tried to mix it up. I tried to give people some of what they wanted, some of what they needed. I tried to create this balance. So that's why I came out with the records the way I came out with them. I do some fun shit, try to do some heavy shit, do some fun shit, do some heavy shit. That was my belief. I felt that was my obligation to the listeners, or to my core fan base. I had the obligation to say something that they could use in their life on a daily basis to help them, not just do some shit that was fun, or do some shit that was funny, or do some shit that was gangster. I had to do some real shit too. So, and a lot of people don't give a fuck. All they do is give people what they want. And if you look at music now, if you look at the world in general.
Oh, that wasn't what So I just wanted to respond to this. If you heard the guy we were watching before, I don't know if you were here, but the earlier video we watched before this one, the guy, Dane, was planning on putting together a documentary with Coolio and Ice Cube, and he was going to make this whole film, and he said they had proof of what they were going to say, and it involved things that were going on in the industry, things that had to do with, like, sex things that were out of the normal, and child trafficking. So they had proof of these things. Yeah, I do believe that they would take him out if he had proof. That's just the same as like they took Jeffrey Epstein out, right? If someone has proof of the elite doing these terrible things, obviously they're not going to let this person come forward with the proof. He must have had some kind of video or something. He had something, he had some kind of proof, and they took care of it.
From what I see, the balance is fucked up right now. If there's a such thing as evil and there's a such thing as good, with this hand being good and this hand being evil, then fucking evil's up here and goods. Wait, no, goods up here and evil's outweighing it like a motherfucker. Evil is fucking winning right now. And from I mean, I don't know what y'all see, from what I see, evil is fucking winning right now. And
yes, I believe that. That he said something in that first video about, the white man. I do believe he's in that mindset 100%. And unfortunately, that means he's still exactly where they want him to be. And pushing that thought forward is kind of goes in line with their agenda. But he had proof of those things I said prior. So that makes him dangerous in any aspect. But to for him to be like, oh, the white man, that is falling in line with what they want. If people are against each other and keep fighting with each other, they have nothing to worry about. That keeps them safe.
Music is part of that. Music fucking influences people. And I don't give a fuck what nobody say. A lot of people try to say, oh, it's not my responsibility to teach your children, or it's not what I say don't matter, you know what I'm saying? I say what the fuck I want to say, and blah, 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 blah. That's some bullshit. That's bullshit. What you say, especially if you're as popular as a Eminem or a 50 Cent or a Kendrick Lamar or a Coolio, Ice Cube, if you're that fucking popular, then what you say has some bearing and some merit. And these children, people's children and grandchildren, are fucking listening to what you have to say. And from my point of view, it's your responsibility to give them some of what they need. And that's how I feel about it.
Okay, go.
I feel like because, he mentioned those bigger rappers first, right? And then he ended it with Coolio and Ice Cube. And both Coolio and Ice Cube they're kind of on like the same plane, right? They never really got that big as the rappers he mentioned before. But he mentioned himself and Ice Cube together. So I feel like when that was recorded, that documentary was already being talked about. Now, this is interesting because he did this and talking about DMX, right? Talking about how he wishes they could chill again and whatever. But DMX died also of a heart attack. He was on life support for a while, but they made it not just a heart attack though, cocaine overdose and heart attack. Of course it would be that because that's really believable. Everybody who knows anything about DMX knows that he had a crack habit. Like that's not a surprise to anybody, but it was a heart attack still.
Sure, by now y'all heard about what's happening with DMX, and it's not good. So, that was my homie. We get to kick as much as I would have liked. We only got kicked like a handful of times so far. But I was looking forward to, hanging out with him again sometime. That's good people, man. I like this aura, this vibe. You know what I mean? So y'all pray for him. I'm not even sure how much prayer works, but man, whatever. Try anything when it comes to times like this. Everybody want to turn to God. And I already know that no matter what happens, motherfuckers gonna be trying to come with the jokes, with the little comedians gonna be
That's interesting that you say that. Live by the evil Masonic devil they collect, right? I've thought many times that some of these people, when they, they get their contract or they get their deal, they make their deal with the devil, right? I feel like sometimes they're told, like, you're gonna have this many years, but you'll be this famous and blah 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 blah. And at the time of the signing, it sounds like a long time, sounds like a lot of years. Like you tell someone, oh, it's going to be 50 years, 40 years, 35 years, whatever have you. At the time, that sounds like a long time, but maybe it ends with you ending, right? Some people higher in the chain of the cult, the occult, right? They probably get longer. Some of these people live to good old ages, but a lot of them die in really weird, questionable ways.
You come with the jokes
And he just said it, like, everybody's got a time to die. That's interesting the way he said that at the same time.
people gonna be making their judgment. So I'm gonna do something that D would do. This is what he would do. He would read y'all some verses, Bible verses. So since he can't do it, I'm gonna do it for him. Do not judge, or you too will be judged. For in the same way you judge others, you will be judged. And with the measure you use, there will be measured to you. That's Matthew 7, chapter, verse 1 and 2. And here's 7, verse 3 through 5. Why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank in your own eye? How can you say to your brother, let me take the speck out of your eye, when all the time there's a plank in your own eye? You hypocrite, you heathen. First take the plank out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eye. Do not judge. This is Luke. This is Luke 6:37. Do not judge, and you will not be judged. Do not condemn, and you will not be condemned. Forgive, and you will be forgiven. That's what my brother get,
So that's replaying. Okay. All right. So I have a second video for you guys. I'm just going to get that up here. I added that last one, that short video, because like I said, something all these men have in common is that they all believe in God, right? Another thing they all have in common is that they all died of a heart attack. Another thing that they have in common is that they were all a big threat to the agenda. They were all taken out. Now, I've got a couple clips of DMX, and then we're going to talk about the guys that invented the cars. There's actually two guys that invented a water engine, an engine that runs just solely off water. The first guy's car required no maintenance. I don't know about the second guy's car. Again, like I said, tires, I'm sure, require maintenance still. Then there was another guy who built a car out of magnets. No, actually, I take that back, because not everybody we're talking about died of a heart attack. The second guy who built the water car was shot while he was on the job. He was a cop. But the other two died of a heart attack. And one of them actually said, my cat's almost knocked my table over here. Dookie, stop. One of them actually said, as he was running out of Denny's, that they poisoned him. Oh, this cat. All right. Sorry, hold on.
I'm bringing to the stage my man from Yonkers, New York, DMX.
This is that video that I could swear was on MTV. I saw this like back when it was on TV.
Yeah.
DMX has been talking out for a very long time.
Yeah. That's what's up. I appreciate it. What I'm going to speak on is the thing that's on my mind the most. You know what I'm saying? The thing that we all got to deal with every day, but don't really know. The industry. The industry, man, it's not the same. Doesn't have to do with talent. It's about playing the game. The industry, real niggas is dying to get in. The industry, just to find they don't fit in. The industry ain't what it used to be. The industry is trying to control the way you MC. They want you to dress like this and talk like that. But I'm going dress like this and talk with the bat. The industry, got your word meaning nothing. The industry, fuck what you heard because he's bluffing. The industry, money, bitches, hate, but I dare you to try to take a fucking thing off my plate. The industry like, wait, but in the street.
It's funny because after this, they took everything off his plate. Like everything.
Streets, we like, get him. 17 up in that thing. Catch him sleeping and hit him. The industry, if you ain't got a strong mind, the industry will break you down. It's a matter of time. The industry, vultures with nothing to feast on. See me? I'm getting my beast on. The industry, stay.
I thought that was an interesting line there. Like he's speaking out about the industry, but he's like, you see me, I'm getting my beast on. But I play after this his little his jailhouse interview he did with Fox. And let me tell you, he ain't talking about getting his beast on there. That's for sure. He's talking about how he believes he was sent there specifically because he needs to preach the gospel. The DMX was actually, he believed in God, and he actually made a lot of songs about God or gospel songs. He even made an album that was a gospel album. I think these are the type of men that are dangerous to the elite. The elite take them in, think they could change their mind and change their ways. And when they realize they can't, these people become dangerous.
Stay in the dirt.
This is a weird little like poetic thing he did, though. I remember this because it was weird back then.
Play in the dirt. Test the wrong one in the industry and you will get hurt. I'm not an industry artist. I'm an artist in the industry. So I do what the fuck I want because nobody can finish me. The industry, wanted, dead or alive, new artists to sell their souls in the way they survive. The industry don't give a fuck about you, but the industry couldn't make a dime without you. The industry, I'm sick of this industry shit. The industry playing them like a industry bitch. They tried to finish me quick, but I am long, so I stand strong. Fuck a beat. Listen to the words in the damn song. I only know how to speak the truth. You know what I'm saying? So I got a little short joint I'm gonna hit you with, you know what I'm saying? And it basically reflects on my relationship with the industry. This is what it is. Often my words fall on deaf ears. Motherfuckers be listening but don't hear. Talking to a nigga, he be sitting right here. I be like,
Everybody in that audience laughs when he says that. Did they have a sign that told them to laugh, or were they all laughing in that moment? Because it's funny because he's saying he speaks truth to people and it falls on deaf ears. I'm talking to him and he's right here and they're all like, meaning like everybody in that audience is not hearing what he's saying. That's what I'm trying to say is these people can speak out. And even if everybody heard what they had to say, there would be a small percentage of people that believed them. That's terrifying.
like, where you going? Nigga be like, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for doing this, by the way.
Thank you for.
This is the jailhouse interview. And this is interesting because you see DMX in like a different light. This is the real DMX. He even has a different voice in this interview. Like, you know how DMX speaks with that like deep, like growling. I don't know. I tried to do an impression. I'm sure that was awful, but he has this like, he speaks like with that dog voice. That's the image they gave him. That's what I mean. They make people to be what they want them to be. That voice he speaks in, that voice he just spoken is not his voice. He actually has a speech I have a speech impediment, so I'm not like knocking him for that, but he has a speech impediment and you can't hear that when he speaks in that other like growling type of voice, but you can definitely hear it in this jailhouse interview. And this is the man behind the mask.
For, give me the opportunity to be heard, in a positive light.
Yeah.
Or just in a fair light.
And if I inadvertently talk about your situation,
I got you.
You let me know.
I got you. I first came to Arizona, man, and I remember one day coming from the studio at 6 o'clock in the morning and pulling over on the highway.
He almost has a like a Mike Tyson voice, right? Like he has this nasally I don't know. This is the man behind the mask. And he also in this interview is a lot like the interview with Coolio that we watched twice now, where he wants to say things, but he's not saying everything he wants to say. I really wish these people just got it out and said what they had to say. They wanted to say it so bad, and they were killed before they said anything. So did they succeed in anything? Not really, right?
We like 4 cars, just to watch the sunrise. And it was at that point that I fell in love with Arizona. I said, you know what, this has to be God's country, because I've never seen anything as beautiful as that sunrise. Then I met the devil in God's country, and it's not so much who, it's what, what happens and the things that the devil does. It's not so much a person, even though he acts through people. You can't call one person the devil.
Joe Arpaio?
You can't call any one person the devil. You can't do that because no one person has enough power to be the devil, and it's through all these hardships that I realized that, you know what, this is God's country because I met the devil here. Because if I hadn't met the devil here, I wouldn't realize I was strong enough to overcome the obstacles that the devil would place in my path. And it's by overcoming these obstacles that I realized that this is God's country, because he helped me get over these obstacles. He helped me get over these hurdles.
Okay, so but when you're done here, when
Yeah.
you're out of here,
I'm not looking back.
you're not coming back?
No, I'm not coming back. I'm not coming back for a show. I'm not coming back for a visit. I'm not even driving through the states. If I'm in a plane and they're gonna fly over it, I'm gonna go around. Okay.
But you love this place.
I love the scenery. I love the scenery about it, and I love the freedom that it initially gave a person. Remember, I said when I first came here, the last exit on the 101 was Pima and Princess. Yeah, that was the last exit, And man, we had fun. We had the 4-wheelers, we just rode the trails. Pretty much the same thing I did when I bought a house out here, but until things, I don't know.
Do you when you think back on this whole thing,
Yeah.
what went wrong in Arizona? How did you end up getting in so much trouble here? Was there too much temptation here, or
I actually didn't get in.
Was after you?
No, I didn't get in. I actually didn't get in any trouble. I was never arrested at the scene of any crime, or the police came and arrested me for something. It was always let's get an arrest warrant for this guy.
You think Arpaio was after you?
I'll let the public answer that one. I'm not going to sit here and say, because I don't know. It might look like it, but I don't know if that was the case. So I'm not going to say that that's what it was. But we're all God's children, and I do pray for that man. As I pray for everyone else. Whether I know you or not, I pray for my friends, family, loved ones, and as well as my enemies every night. Because we're all God's children. We're all God's children, and we all deserve the same grace.
In any way, has this time in here a lot of time to think? Has
Yes.
that changed X?
Yes, it has. It has. It has. It has gotten me closer to my true calling on life, closer to actualizing my true calling on life, which is to be a pastor. So I'm like, I'm in my Bible every day. They got me on 23-hour lock-in. Why? I don't know.
Is that for your own protection?
That's what they say, but it's really just to be a pain in the ass. They just put me in general population a week ago. I didn't get in so much as a write-up. I haven't had one disciplinary report since I've been here. Yet they moved me back.
So what are you going to do, X, when you're out of here finally? What's the game plan?
Well, I'm going to start a TV show while I'm in here, Pain and Perseverance. And it's about how I can reach people that the average person can't reach because I'm grounded. I'm still as grounded as I am. And
He's very smug, no? Like very egotistical of a man.
I'm going to give my first sermon in the church. That's going to be like incredible for me, and I hope it'll be incredible for the congregation of that church. I hope I'm able to reach somebody or just touch somebody, and bring them closer to the Lord.
Are you going to still make music?
Yes. Actually, I've completed the gospel album. Yeah. On every one of my albums, there's been a gospel song and a prayer. And, of course, with the image, they never made those songs into singles except my 6th album, which is Lord, and they did Lord Give Me a Sign as a single.
So you heard that? He says that out of all his albums, they never made his gospel song, the song that he did because he wanted to, right? Like, it was the song that it wasn't what the industry wanted him to do. It was what he wanted to do. And they never made his gospel song into a single ever. He'd have multiple singles on all the other albums, but never his song until what number album? Number 6. And he doesn't see that. It's like even the ones that are awake are so blind at the same time. It's so sad.
And
Are you gonna? Do you turn your back on what you wrote earlier in your career?
no, I do not. No, because
Do you have kids?
yes, I have 8 kids.
How old are they?
The oldest one is 16. The youngest one is 3 months.
How do you feel about them listening to some of the things you've written?
I encourage them to listen, but I also encourage them to not. They know what not to say. You can't hide something from a child because that only gets them more curious about it. What you do is you say, all right, this is what it is, and this ain't for you.
Do you think it's a negative message?
No, it's a real message, and real is sometimes negative as well as positive, but it's real, and it needs to be. It needs to be. Yes, it needs to be real. You can't hide. You can't hide things because they're gonna find out, and when they find them, like, oh, this must be good because
He's right in what he's saying. You can't shelter your children from the world and hide how bad the world is from them because it makes it dangerous for them. That's how your children end up getting in a stranger's car or whatever. You cannot hide that the world is dangerous from your children. You should not solely teach your children that the world is dangerous. You should teach them that it's a beautiful place too. You kind of got to have balance in with how you teach your children these things. But to shelter your child is extremely dangerous. A lot of times when you shelter your children, those are the children that when they go off to college, they really go off into the deep end because they were so sheltered from things growing up. Like they couldn't watch rated R movies, or they couldn't dress a certain way, or they couldn't have certain CDs, or they couldn't do this or that. You can't hide the world from your children. What you have to do is teach your children right and wrong. They're going to experience the world when they get 18 and older, no matter what, without you. It's not up to you at that point. So to hide everything and keep things from your children, obviously within reason, you're not going to be showing rated R movies to your 4-year-old, but in the same sense, you have to teach your children the way the world really works. To hide things from them is nothing but dangerous, and that's what he's saying right now. The man, he had his heart was in the right place. It's just he was so deep into money is the root of all evil. And when these people are given a lot of money, money is literally the root of all evil. Money is what controls all things. Money controls the people. Now, money is what controls even the elite, okay? Like, money is what gives them their social status, right? The more money, the higher they are in that social chain of them small 1% rich people. Money gives them it gives them social status. It's just money is what makes everything for them. Like it's hard to understand. It's even hard for me to understand. I try to look at it like outside the box. I've never had that kind of money. But when you have that kind of money, you kind of have like no ambition for anything. You have no goals. There's nothing really for you to reach for anymore because everything you want, you can have. You can afford everything. You can afford that nice car. You can afford that nice house. You can have 5 houses. You can own a little island. Whatever you want to do, you've got the money for it, right? So that comes with its own evils. It comes with its own depression and its own things. But the higher up the chain they get, the weirder and more evil things get. And that's why these certain rappers kind of only made it to a certain, they made it only so far. DMX actually made it a lot farther than Coolio or Ice Cube or, any of these smaller ones that have spoken out, like Cat Williams. He was a comedian, but he didn't get as big as he could have because he spoke out about the industry. DMX was actually pretty huge, and he's been speaking out about it the whole time. Makes you wonder, though, why he was as big as he was.
My father hid it from me all this time. He must have wanted it for himself. No, I'm gonna tell you what it is, and tell you, you touch it, I'll break your arm. Or if you get curious, come talk to me.
In other words, he beats his children, right? Like, he's like, yeah, you tell him, no, this isn't for you, and if you touch it, I'll break your arm. In other words, I hit my kids.
Me about it because I've already been through it. I haven't been through what I've been through for nothing. I've been through what I've been through to stop you from going through it, to be able to tell you about it, so that way you won't have to experiment to know what it's about.
So you're saying your music, in a sense, some of it's a warning.
Yes.
Tell me, I think people are curious how a guy, you've sold how many records?
28 million.
And made millions and millions of dollars.
Yeah.
How do you end up in here?
I think everyone who's watching knows how I ended up in here.
I don't know if they do.
You see that? Exactly what Coolio was saying as well. He thinks everybody that's watching knows how he ended up in there. He ended up in there because he was speaking out against the industry. He said things he wasn't supposed to say, and he continually did that. So they tried to take him down. They tried to destroy him and his image. That's how he ended up in there. It's funny that the news guy's like, no, I don't think people know.
I'm pretty sure they do. Anytime you get it, I'm pretty sure they do. There's
yeah.
How do I end up in here?
I think so.
You know what? I'm going to look at it in a positive light and say that I came here to meet somebody. Don't know who it was, but I'll know when I see him. And I came here to give him a message. And that message is Jesus loves him. You know what I'm saying? I came here to give him the word. That's why I'm here. Regardless of what it looks like, regardless of what people think, that's why I'm here. I came here to meet somebody and tell them about the glory of God.
Tell me if I'm wrong. In the rap world, if you do time in jail or prison, or you've been shot, that's a badge of courage, right? That gives you street cred.
Not really. I mean, I guess in any world, it has people like, ooh, you made it. That's like surviving something that a lot of people didn't
It
survive.
makes you a survivor. Absolutely. It's obviously someone who's been shot and survives, or someone who's been to prison. You've done something not like, this is what he's going to say. You've done something not everybody has done or been through. It makes you a survivor. 100%. Anybody who survives any kind of traumatic event, it makes you a survivor. So street cred, like this news interview, right? Like, what kind of questions are these? Couldn't they send somebody better than this?
Live. So I guess in that aspect, but that's not so much the rap world, it's in any world,
So does this time in jail here, does it help your standing with your fans?
No, it's actually
this news interview guy is asking questions like this is his first day on Earth.
Man, it's wasting time. It's wasting time. There's so many things I could be doing. But then again, I am doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Just a little bit of time. And it's not going to be long. It's not going to be long. It'll be over soon. And before you know it, I'll be back doing what I'm supposed to be doing. The gospel according to X. Music, movies, speaking to people,
Have you talked to guys in here who don't have the opportunities that you've had and will have when you get out? There are guys in here who really don't have a lot going on. I mean, they've got a tough road ahead when they get out of here. They're not going to have movies, and they're not going to have TV shows. They're not going to sell records.
Have I talked to them about what?
Have you tried to help them?
I give positive advice. I try to get them to look into themselves to see what they're good at, because we all have a talent. So I try to get them to look at themselves, and I try to explain to them, you don't have to do that, because there's no such thing as an old drug dealer. You know, there's no old players. You know, there's no old gangsters. You know, so I give them something to think about. You know, there's so many other things that you could do. But, you know, people do what they want to do. And I'm not their father. So I just tell them, you know, the best thing I can tell them at that particular time and hope they get into it, you know. But I always tell them that Jesus loves them.
So now we're going to watch a couple videos, a video about Stanley Meyer and a video about the guy who invented the car with magnets. It's really interesting, I thought. And all of these people were a threat to the industry, the oil industry, the music industry, the industry, whatever have you. It's really all owned by like a couple of families anyway. All of it, everything is owned by a couple of families. There he is. He's being a complete jerk right now. He's running around, knocking things down. Now he's on my chair. He's just being destructive. This is Duke. No, Duke. Get down. Okay, so let's get into the Stanley Meyer video.
Well, it was during the oil embargo of the United States. It alarmed me that a little country over in the Far East could actually cripple the United States. And realizing that the entire industrial base of the United States and the world is based on the supply and the utilization of energy, it became imperative that we must try to bring in an alternate fuel source and do it very quickly. Of course, I thought originally with the right type of funding, we could possibly get it in within 6 months. But reality shows that the 12 to 15 years was more correct in this projection.
Back in the 70s, Stan Meyer set out single-handedly to solve America's energy problems. He decided to do it using water, the world's most abundant storehouse of hydrogen, which is a far more powerful fuel than oil. For 15 years, Meyer has been fighting to get his inventions taken seriously.
You hear that? For 15 years, he's been fighting to get his inventions taken seriously. That's the thing. When people invent amazing things all the time. And if it's a threat in any way to the industry, they will laugh it off. Like, you're not going to go forward. The only reason anybody started listening to Stanley Meyer is because he started calling news companies and he started broadcasting what he had done. Well, that's the only reason anybody listened to what he had to say. Then the patent companies started taking him seriously.
Most inventors have to be a loner. You have to be somewhat thick-skinned and don't rely on other people to support you, because they will not. More times than not, an invention is really stolen from the inventors. Even in my prior development of high technology, I've had patents taken from me. I learned from the School of Hard Knocks to be very cautious.
You notice when he says, don't rely on other people to support you, they chose to take a frame of him walking in front of a bank while he said that. Those are the little things that are done to manipulate your way of thinking. Like, as he's saying, like, no one's going to support you when you're trying to do these things. You got to be a loner. You're on your own, yada, yada, yada. They show him walking in front of a savings bank. That's a way of like planting in your subconscious that you're not going to make it without them, their money, their loans. You can't do things without. That's a very subtle way of planting how you're going to look at something or how you're going to think about things. It's interesting, and I caught that, and I wanted to point that out to you guys.
Cautious.
Meyer has always stood out against the crowd. He has no formal qualifications as a scientist because he didn't wait to graduate from high school, leaving early to go straight into research at the high-powered Battelle Institute in his native Ohio. Now he works full-time as a private inventor. He's built a device with potentially revolutionary implications. There is nothing startling about a machine that can extract the hydrogen from water. What is highly unusual is that it should do so with ordinary tap water. The conventional method is called electrolysis. Meyer has turned that process on its head. Unlike electrolysis, his device doesn't use up large amounts of electric current, nor does it produce an enormous amount of waste heat. For 20 years, he has been refining a method to fracture water, which produces vast amounts of hydrogen on demand. This is not his latest apparatus. He was unwilling to let us point a camera at that. This is the simple device he used to convince a reluctant patent office that his revolutionary concept actually works.
You hear that? This isn't quite what he was building, and he wasn't going to allow them to point a camera at that because this guy does not trust that someone's just going to take his idea and run with it. And that's what happened in the end. He signed these contracts or whatever with the Pentagon. He had these deals going with the government, and the day after he signed, meaning the day after they had access to all of these things, heart attack. They took it and did what they want with it. I don't think they used it. I think they just took it. Kind of like how like think of it like how, remember Vine? Someone bought Vine and then just completely got rid of it. I think it was TikTok that bought Vine personally, but someone bought Vine and then just that was it. They got rid of it. They may do that with people's inventions and stuff as well. People may invent things and that's it. They take these inventions and they store them away. Like Tesla, for instance. Tesla invented a way for us to be able to get energy out of the air, kind of like what the ancients were doing, right? That was Tesla's invention. People of in the government or people that were on the other side of like, let's control electricity and control how much people get and like, let's charge them for it. Those people would bring animals to Tesla's demonstrations where people would come and they would sit and they would watch him turn on his machine and he would show how it could power all these lights and all these different things, right? They would bring animals to these events. And when Tesla would flip the switch for his machine, they would electrocute the animals. And then it would be printed in the newspapers that, oh, he flipped the switch and it electrocuted this. I think it was an elephant once. I kid you not. So again, they will try to destroy you. And then in the end, they will take you out. Tesla's papers and all his notes and stuff were taken by the government. And yet, where is this energy that could be taken from the air? We don't have devices that can just run off energy from the air, but we could. They know how to use that, like they know how to make that technology. They will not make that technology because it goes against making money.
Alloy rods, acting as electrodes, are housed in a perspex container that's filled with water. Normal mains voltage is fed in through a transformer, but critically, there is virtually no current consumed, less than half an amp. The result is dramatic. Hydrogen pours off with the flick of a switch. Meyer claims the key is his electronics, which pulses electricity rapidly across the rods at up to 20,000 cycles per second. In a way that's not readily apparent, this process transforms the equation. Whereas in conventional electrolysis, 3 times as much energy is consumed as is produced in the form of hydrogen fuel, in Meyer's apparatus, the reverse is true. It appears to produce several 100% more energy than it consumes.
Stan has something that's characteristic.
It produces way more energy than it consumes. And also, they were saying that with the process to draw hydrogen out of water, it should make the water really hot really fast, right? But his device did not do that. The temperature of the water stayed relatively the same the entire time the machine was running. It was a big deal.
Of the people that sound like they've done something to tap 0-point energy. Has high frequency, high voltage, and there's a combination of the two at which something occurs. With Chernetsky in Russia, it was what he called a self-sustaining discharge. The tube would run by itself. When Stan gets this effect, the amount of hydrogen and oxygen that are emitted off these 2 electrodes is a step function. It almost boils the water. If I did this with standard electrochemicals, I need current, and the water should rise a degree every couple of seconds. With Stan's, it'll run for a half hour.
This man almost seems angry at Stan's invention. No, like he seems this guy's probably a Mason or a part of something because as he speaks like he's pissed off about this guy's invention. Look at his face and the way he's being aggressive.
And the water temperature hasn't changed. Something's different.
Meyer demonstrates this repeatedly without any difficulty, and yet on the face of it, it represents an extraordinary revolution. His measurements over the years suggest 1,700% greater efficiency than conventional electrolysis. And if he's to be believed, he's getting much better results from his latest, still secret invention.
Well, I first got involved with Stanley when I went over there with a couple of colleagues to look at his water splitting device. And so we arrived at Stanley Meyer. He had a demonstration cell. We filled it with tap water. In fact, I did that myself. And he switched it on, and almost instantly, the 3 jaws dropped because of the rate at which the gas poured off. It was quite spectacular.
Whatever energy source Stan Meyer had tapped, it was not explicable by the electric power that was going into it.
You can't tell me that man is not angry as hell that this guy figured this out.
So something was powering it outside of conventional wisdom.
There is no question that the gas coming off in such abundance is hydrogen. Meyer ignites it to produce a high-temperature flame able to cut through metal.
Stanley Meyer has faced a lot of difficulties. He's 3 times tried to launch the device and produce press conferences, have the technical press round, but he's been almost universally slated. In the early days, very much so, they just ridiculed the whole idea. He's getting a little more notice now because some scientists are getting interested. But by and large, science is very intolerant, particularly modern science.
As with Tesla, Griggs and others, Meyer's claims are so far outside the received scientific wisdom that they've been ignored by the majority of the scientific establishment. But then Meyer has ignored them too. He has poured his energies over the last 10 years into establishing recognition for his claims by getting international patents.
It's so sad that the world operates that way. It really is. That it's just so sad that this time around, because I truly believe that we've been advanced time and time and time and time again, and then something big happens that sets us back to the Stone Age and we have to start over. A lot of buildings that are around in here, much like the pyramids, have been here for a very long time. They're not built when some of them are said to have been built. I believe that 100%. And with that being said, this time around, we suck. Like our mindset as a whole, not everybody, but it's so in the box and it's so confined and it's so small-minded. It's sad. Like there's nowhere to advance from here. I mean, I think time's up anyway, but there's nowhere to advance from here if that's the way we're going to be as a whole. Like, oh, this guy's claims don't make sense. I don't like the way it sounds. It sounds like a bunch of hubbub, and we're going to ignore it until he gets so much attention that we can't anymore, and then we're going to kill him.
Processing, there was a great deal of difficulty in trying to process the legal paperwork in such a way as to allow the patent office to fully understand what was actually occurring. In one instant, we brought the water fuel cell to Washington, D.C. And of course, I had tweaked it in such a way to produce an enormous amount of hydrogen and oxygen gas. And the patent examiner said, no, it will not work based on the electrolysis process. And when we turned it on and produced an enormous amount of hydrogen and gas, the examiner finally realized that we were doing exactly that and went out in the hallway and started screaming and hollering to everybody on the floor, put out all your cigarettes, hydrogen's in the building. So we started laughing and said, well, we certainly convinced everybody in the patent office that we can do what we said we can do.
Even so, the US Patent Office dragged their feet for 3 years before granting patents on the hydrogen-producing device. Since then, again...
So we got patents in a bunch of other countries, and the US Patent Office dragged their feet for 3 years. 3 years they dragged their feet. They didn't want nothing to do with it until the army jumped on.
Massive resistance. He's managed to get patents established throughout Europe and Japan.
And the day after he signed those papers.
But the hydrogen machine was only the first step towards Meyer's ultimate dream. If he gets it
See
right,
what it says on the car? Right on the car. It says Jesus Christ is Lord. All of these people were men of faith.
this application of his technology would change the 21st century in the same way that the Wright brothers and Carl Benz transformed the 20th. He is currently modifying a beach buggy to run on nothing but water. It doesn't have a petrol tank or even a hydrogen container. It has just a tank of water. He's invented a device called a water splitter to replace the spark plug. As the water is injected into the engine, Meyer claims it's fractured into hydrogen and oxygen and then burned as fuel. Meyer is working on a kit to modify any engine. He hopes to demonstrate it on this car within 12 months.
And of course, the blessing to the use of the water as a fuel source, that on combustion, the byproduct is water mist. So we're even solving the environmental pollution problem at the same time that we're using water to maintain the industrial basis of the world.
You hear that? So this is what drives me crazy. So this guy invents an engine that runs on water, and what comes out, like the byproduct of it, is water. You get your hydrogen, and then it okay. So, and he's like, it solves our environmental issues as well. And then you have the elite, you have those who are in power and in charge telling us, all of us, oh, I'm sorry, I don't know how loud that was, I apologize, telling all of us that go green, it's so important, we get electric cars and we have to, make our carbon footprint smaller and yada yada yada. It's all an agenda. It's all a part of a bigger plan, and they're succeeding at it. They have been for a very long time. It's really sad to see that so much of the world is so asleep that things like this happen and nobody bats an eyelash. No one's paying attention. This man says literally that it would solve a huge pollution problem, and that these engines are cheap to build and they don't make any pollutants, and they just maintain themselves. You don't have to do anything with them. It's just absolutely a wonderful thing that he invented. And where is it? The army bought it, and then they took him out. The army bought it, mind you. So, like, let's think national security, right? We're thinking about the U.S. military. They bought it, put it away, it locked it up with their, locked it up in a vault with their key, probably swallowed it, and then it was gone forever. And we'll never ever see a car that runs on water be put on the market ever. And if we did, it would cost so much that none of us would be buying those cars anyway. If they could find a way to tax water, then we'll see these cars on the road.
Meyer is protective about his inventions to the point of self-confessed paranoia. Most observers describe him as a crank and his car as an aberration. But then madness and genius often go hand in hand. Meyer shares with many inventors a problem that goes well beyond paranoia. As an engineer with no scientific background, he faces a giant hurdle when he tries to communicate with scientists.
You guys can't see me or hear me? Oh, we're done. We're done. We're done.